Well, another one has found me again. This is a Colt Combat Commander, and because of my last project, somebody offered me this frame, and I was stupid enough to take him up on the offer. This is much worse than the last one. And I was trying not to make another video about a gun build, but I think that's kind of my niche at this point. I will be doing more camping videos. But in the meantime, you can see here, I got some more pock marks, even on the side strap. I'm going to do my best to repair this, and I will do a little bit more of a in-depth video of the process. The dust cover is shorter because it's a Combat Commander. On this one here, the plunger tube, very solid. It'd be a shame to go and shy away from the nickel finish on this. So, this is a 1976 Colt Combat Commander. I have the entire lower parts grouping coming, hammer, everything. So that should be here by next week. I will build that, and I'm deciding on a slide. Either I'm going to put together a slide, barrel combo, or I've seen the T-Sauce Tinker slide, which is 4 1/4. Should fit on there nicely. The conundrum is, at the cost of getting all these parts, including the frame, I could have just bought a 1911 that doesn't look like this. But for whatever reason, I'm addicted to torturing myself with these horrible jobs that need to be repaired. I think it's worth it, though, in order to save a piece of history, even though it's a 1976. It is a bicentennial gun, and I risk having a lot of issues here with the nickel finish being ground off. We'll see what happens, because it looks like most of it is nickeled, but if I get into the back, it looks like it's a standard steel. So with my American ingenuity, I'll figure out what I can do in order to repair this, and maybe figure out a way to nickel this, which will retroactively help me if I figure that out, and I can redo my Colt 1903 pocket. So this is going to be a few parts like the last one. What's notable and nice on this is that there's no idiot scratch, be it the nickeling that prevented it or whoever bought this spent a lot of money back in the day. At any rate, I'm going to start filming the process of removing these stupid dimples. I don't know why people ever do this. They took a hammer and a nail or something and did this at some point. I know it's supposed to give you grip, but check this out. That's how much of a burr is on that front strap. I can push the gun forward, grabbing on that burr. The first line of action will be to sand this down. If that doesn't work, I may just use a chisel and try and make this look better. That will be tedious. So I'm going to start with the path of least resistance and go to my trusty old belt sander. So, in light of my last run of videos, I wanted to get a little bit more detailed this time and show a nice close-up of what I'm dealing with here. Some of these are deeper than others. The ones on the side here I may leave for the sake of not making things worse. It's already bad, and the grip panel will cover that at least. They've really done a number on this, as you can see, especially for a nickeled gun. Now, something I didn't touch base on in my previous videos that a few of you pointed out, and some people that I've spoken to at some gun shops. This is what people would do for a Bullseye gun back in the day. So a Bullseye gun basically has a scope, and it has a lot of times this front checkering before aftermarket parts are really a thing, such as tape with grip on it. Another gentleman I spoke to said that it's also possible to use silicon nitride mixed with JB weld that you can put on there as a non-permanent option for grip. But if you're considering doing something like this, please don't. It's never worth it. And I never thought I would say this, but the last 1911's front grip texture that was done looks even better than this. This is just sad. It's literally a nail and a hammer. Somebody took the time to put this in a vise like this, hold it in place and do this. And they concentrated on the right half, and you can see the sparsity on the left half. There's plenty of grip options out there. Don't ruin your guns like this. Now it's time to move to the belt sander. Alright, so this go around I'm going to do things a little differently. Got the belt sander here. Snow blower in the background. It's got some snow this week. I'm going to start with 180 grit this time. Something a little less aggressive. Still enough to take off a good amount of material. Always make sure that the arrows are pointing in the right direction, which is this way. You have to. I've had this belt sander for a number of years. 2x42, which is not. Well, let me rephrase this. Since Amazon came along, it's easier to get some of these belts. But in the previous situation where you only had Sears, they weren't too easy to get. You had to hope they were in stock. So can see I got quite a bit of belts now. All different grits. I'm going to start with this 180. This thing, I've had it for maybe, what, 17 years at this point. My first thing that I did was making knives. This is one I need to get done. I've kind of lost my motivation with the knife making. I'll get back to it eventually. Excuse the mess in here. Been doing a lot of different projects. But without further ado, let's get sanding. Little beer in the old tankard. That's a cool one. I like how the 180 is doing on this. Knock some of that out. My chrome, the poor chrome. I mean the poor nickel. Poor nickel. Let's continue. Now I'm not pushing very hard on this. I'm going very light. Where people make mistakes is where they start to push real hard. Let the machine do the work. So the big problem I'm running into is right around here where it starts to upsweep. I'm down the little pinholes. I think because of this, I think once again I will do that combat undercut, and I will do it a little bit more aggressively this time. So I'm going to continue on what I'm doing here. I'm going to work on it some more, and then I will report that. I wanted to quickly note that this is a bit of a modified belt sander where I have a point here and a point here where I can kind of get, let me let it stop here, push in, and it makes a U shape, which helps quite a bit rather than hitting here. When you have this pad here, what happens is you start to get more pressure and you'll get flat spots. So as I'm on there, you'll note I'm going like a scoop. And it's important that you don't focus on one spot, you work up and down. Now, it may be a little bit disingenuous and cheating, but part of that combat cut, the reasoning behind it is because of getting up in here, it starts to create some little shelves in the metal, which I was able to accomplish pretty well in the other gun. I did sand with that round barrel sander and did smooth it out, but I think because this is going to be a carry gun, I'm going to do that anyway. Frame's never going to be original again. It's never going to be worth anything. So, as I get down deeper in here, these pock marks are starting to come out pretty good. Some of the ones up top are a little deeper than down lower. These are almost gone. And oddly enough, I mentioned before the right side was a little bit more dense. Those are coming out better than the left side. But let me get it to the point where there's no more pock marks. And then I will do a little bit of the combat cut. This is pissing me off. But it's starting to come out down here. Another thing, I went past the tape, but the tape definitely helped. At this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this tape, and then with the drill, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to do a slow slope up here. Don't mind my nails. I work a lot with my hands. Slow slope up here. Start that combat cut, and I think that will start to get rid of this. And if you can see the shelf that forms because the belt sander can't physically warp itself to fit in here. If I try to do it on the belt sander, what will happen is the belt will go like this and start a flat spot here, which I don't want. So that barrel tool, this guy, or something similar, will come up in here and start digging that out, and that will be pretty good. So, I would love to do this with a file. I got this barrel sander. So now I'm going to work my way up like this. See how this comes out. As you'll note, I'll go a little longer when I'm on this side because naturally I tend to want to spend more time here because it's closer to me. So when you're over here, try and spend like an extra second or two. You don't want to be chasing a lopsided sanding job. Battery's dying, so I'm going to show you what's going on here. Do some more work and then we'll be back. Alright, so I spent about 30 minutes with that barrel sander doing this. And of course, you know, I ran up here. So I'm going to try and get that straight. I'm going to go up to maybe a 400. Work on this some more, and then I'm going to hit this again. Hit it with the 600 grit hand sander. This will be remedied by the barrel sander on the drill. I've been doing 400 grit. Now you can see here I still got a couple deep pock marks. I got a lot of material left, but how much material do I want to sacrifice for these 4 little pock marks? And on this side I got a few here. So what I'm thinking is I'll try and do this by hand. I'm going to get that barrel roller in here, finish that combat cut out, do some work on that, and then hopefully when I hand sand it and buff, these will go away. Can't catch it with my nail. Doesn't seem too deep. Still not within what I want. But I could live with it if it means keeping more material, which I'm still doing pretty good. There's a term in the mechanics world, and one that I have adopted, called chasing gremlins. So that's what I'm doing. You know, I dug farther into the side than I want. It'll be still covered by the grip panel. it'll be cleaned up when I buff. I've noticed that the metal on this is a little bit tougher than the last 1911. This being something of 12 years newer, where it's taken a lot more grinding to get in there. But I've got all the pock marks out. Sorry, the focus isn't working too well. But digging into this panel here to get to that desired undercut I want, it's been a challenge. But I'm going to keep working at it. It's been about 2 hours of this project. So I'll be back. I won't be doing any more belt sanding or sanding from the drill. We're all down the hand now. For the sake of not ruining this frame, unfortunately I got to live with these couple dots. Maybe they'll come out when I buff. They'll be hidden when I blue. So right now I got this 600 grit sandpaper with a little bit of oil. And what I'm doing is just going down the length of the frame and just kind of cleaning it up before I buff. Starting to work. The undercut. Well, for the undercut, unfortunately, the drill's not cutting it. This is a little crooked here. That might get blended in when I buff. See, it's a little crooked. But again, we're working with crap. You know, we're starting out crappy. We're working with crap. We're trying to make it less crap. So I got a bit of an undercut. It's working a little bit. But I'm going to wait until I get the proper file so that I can kind of do a scoop, because that drill is just taking forever. The file's going to do better. Ready for buffing. I'm going to buff. Got my buffing compound. It's a polishing compound. It's green. So here we go. I don't know if I need to blue this or not. It needs to be wiped with some oil, but that's what it looks like. That's just grease. I think that's going to do it for now. We'll check back in once my parts come in, and we'll finish out the series. All right, so I wanted to wrap the video. This is how ultimately the frame came out. I'll do maybe a little bit more work. Everything on the video is more pronounced than it is in real life. Pops out more. A lot of buffing done on here. I might get in there with some finer sandpaper and buff again. But compared to where everything began, I think how it is now is very serviceable. And I'll include a photo of what it looks like with a 4 1/4 inch slide. I made an offer on the Tank Commander slide And I got the lower parts that should be here this week, so I'm excited for that. Quick update on the Colt. Well, they're both Colts, but the 45. They're both 45s. Let me say that again. The 1954 Colt. So, this is its ultimate form. Trying to get this to focus. Staked in the front sight. Let me put this down. Stake the front sight in. New rear sight. Wilson Combat hammer. Wilson Combat grip safety. Wilson Combat trigger adjustable. Nice and light. Wilson Combat firing pin and spring in there. And of course, from the last videos, I've got the extractor and the sear spring. I did put a Colonimus mag release, and my favorite addition right now with the magwell, these aluminum Archangel grips. Now, I'll give a little shout out to Optics Planet. I was very apprehensive to order from them because I've heard horrible things about their shipping, but by far this was the cheapest price on these grips. This grip safety and this trigger, I think I paid $33 for the grip safety, $28 for these, and $18 and $7 shipping. So not too bad. So that's pretty much it for this. Still on the fence about doing the parkerization because that bluing is not holding up too well. As far as this being nickel coated, the buffing and everything like that, if I keep this thing, keep an eye on it, I may not need to re-nickel this. But I do need to figure out a way to clean up some of this dried up oil that tends to be on here. You can see I left a couple of the little dimples. I made an attempt at a combat cut. It's not quite that deep. I'm going to probably work on it some more. We'll see. For me to have ground out these little dimples, which look actually a lot bigger on camera than they are in real life, it would have just eaten away too much material. Still got a good amount left here. It's hard to focus, but we don't want to get too deep into this strap, but I got plenty of material, and it seems like compared to this, I don't remember this metal being as hard as this metal was to sand. Maybe it's a different material. It's magnetic, so it's not aluminum, so that would have been softer anyway. But all considered, that concludes part 1.